Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 240 based on novel. So let's start. In a dark and strange space, at this moment, a human figure wrapped up and down by a light blue flame is standing in the middle. The blazing flame emits bright light and hot temperature, burning and distorting the surrounding space. Under the fire, a pair of eyes that also show light blue fire light are carefully looking around at the space where they are. The surging soul power gushes out of their minds, spreading in all directions like a tide, and carefully exploring the surrounding world inch by inch. The dark space seemed like a dark night without stars and moon. However, wherever Xiao Yang's soul power went, it was an infinite darkness. The most strange thing was that there was an extremely strange power in the infinite darkness. If Xiao Yang had not been protected by strange fire, I'm afraid he would have used his soul power. I'm afraid it's extremely difficult to survive here. This is the dark road? Under the fire, his eyes flickered slightly, and a sharp look flashed in the depths of his pupils. It is worthy of being the dark road. I'm afraid this kind of road power is the most powerful one among all the roads Xiao Yang has seen so far. Even if his empty road is compared with it, there must be a certain gap. Of course, this is a big part of the reason. It was also because of the gap in cultivation between them. Otherwise, Xiao Yang would not be afraid of the Lord of the Hall. However, what surprised Xiao Yang most was that after some exploration of the soul power just now, he had never found the trace of the Hall Master in the darkness, as if he had completely disappeared here. But Xiao Yang also knew that it was absolutely impossible for the Hall Master to leave here if he wanted to exert his great power by such means. Otherwise, together with the dark road that trapped him, it will dissipate. But since the other party is in this strange space, why can't he feel his breath? This, however, surprised Xiao Yang. Jie. Xiao Yang, welcome to the dark field of the main hall. Here, the hall will let you see all the power of the dark avenue. However, at this time, the strange smile of the master of the hall suddenly sounded in Xiao Yang's ear. It was close to his ear, which shocked Xiao Yang's whole spirit and subconsciously dodged to one side. At the same time, he threw a backhand fist at the other side. The powerful force squeezed a vacuum out of the dense space. Hiss. But at the next moment, when Xiao Yang punched forward, behind him, a hissing sound broke through the space suddenly sounded. At the same time, a sharp black spear front stabbed Xiao Yang's waist at an extremely tricky angle. At such a close distance, with Xiao Yang's current state, there's no way to avoid it. What? Xiao Yang was shocked by the sudden attack. He didn't have time to make many moves. He had to move his mind. The flame on the body surface moved with his heart and condensed into a pair of different fire armor in a moment. At the same time, under the armor, the golden elephant decided to use it. The golden light protected his body and the dragon phoenix ancient armor, regardless of the cunning of the attack of the Hall Master, but it was resisted after all. Dang! When the heavy collision sound sounded, Xiao Yang's body couldn't help shaking, and his body slightly flew forward. Although his defense successfully resisted the impact of the strange spear, his arrogant strength still made Xiao Yang feel a shock and pain under his armor. Oh, a ghost who can do things secretly. Why, is this the only ability of your so-called dark road? It seems that I overestimate you. As soon as his body shook, while the source qi in his body circulated, Xiao Yang's pain was relieved. Then, under the fire, a pair of cold eyes looked up and scanned the strange space in front of him, and the corners of his mouth also aroused a ferocious smile. After the words, Xiao Yang quickly raised his hands and put them in his hands. Two flames with completely different colors appeared in the palm. It was Bone Spirit Cold Fire and Sea Heart Flame. Then, under the slightly frightened eyes of the Hall Master, Xiao Yang patted his hands. The two flames in his hands were rubbed together. Look at this posture, Xiao Yang is preparing to gather Buddha's anger lotus. In the face of an opponent like Lord Han, it is difficult for an ordinary offensive to play a role. What's more, in this strange space wrapped by the Dark Avenue, only by solving the Dark Avenue as soon as possible can he have more opportunities to fight with Lord Han. Only in this way can Xiao Yang defeat him. Boy, don't underestimate people. The owner's dark road is specially prepared for you. How can you easily condense the strange fire lotus? At this time, in the surrounding space, the low voice of the Lord of the Hall came again. Immediately after that, in the dark space around Xiao Yang, countless sounds of breaking the air sounded one after another, and all kinds of energy stabbed at Xiao Yang. The fierce attack was dazzling and unimaginable. However, with a few breathing efforts, the strange fire armor on Xiao Yang, the light on it is already dim. Dark Road, swallow those flames for me. The sharp cry of the Hall Master sounded, and a thick dark road-like liquid covered the armor worn by Xiao Yang. In a short time, a hissing sound burning by fire was violent. At the same time, there was also a thick fog. Coupled with the continuous bombardment of energy, soon, the strange fire armor on Xiao Yang's body only has a thin layer. It seems that it may break at any time. As for the flame between Xiao Yang's hands, although it seems that it is still in fierce fusion, it seems that there is still a long distance from its real fusion, which is completely contrary to Xiao Yang's previous fusion process. Hiss. At one moment, when Xiao Yang's flame armor broke, the body shape of the Hall Master went away, but he suddenly appeared in front of Xiao Yang in an extremely strange way. One hand turned into a claw and separated Xiao Yang's constantly squeezed hands, and the two flames between his palms dissipated each other without recoil. Without Fire Lotus, I think you can have any means to die. However, just before the last word in the main mouth of the hall was heard, a deep pain suddenly twisted his face uncontrollably. Just now, an extremely terrible force was twisting his arm, and under that force, it was as if his whole arm was twisting violently, as if his bones were about to be broken. Ah! The miserable roar erupted from the mouth of the Hall Master. The other hand grabbed the wrist of the injured arm, as if he wanted to compete with the terrible force, but the harder he tried, the more he feared the pain caused by the twisted force. When the Lord of the Hall of Han looked through the pain, he only saw that in his injured palm, a strange black steel needle was mercilessly inserted deeply into his palm and arm, and that terrible twisted force came from it. Xiao Yang, you. Hihi. Don't think that the power of the road is only your own. I know you know my means very well, but it's only limited to the fighting mainland. Don't forget, this is the Yuanwu mainland. I'm more than a way to deal with you. The moment the voice fell, Xiao Yang's body suddenly disappeared in place. The next moment, in the frightened eyes of the Hall Master, Xiao Yang's body came to him again, and the palm covered by a layer of solid source gas fell on his heart. Easier fighting skill. Broken heart palm. Easier fighting skill. Broken heart palm. At the moment when Xiao Yang's voice fell, the palm covered by the source chi was also ruthlessly printed on the heart of the Hall Master in front of him. The strong power caused the Hall Master a sudden tremor in his heart. A deep sense of panic came out from the bottom of his heart. It's hard to imagine that Xiao Yang, whose cultivation is obviously a lot worse than him, could burst out such a powerful power. Although he had known the latter's strength for a long time, only when he faced it personally could he more clearly appreciate Xiao Yang's horror. However, after all, he is the strong one in the source territory. Even if Xiao Yang has extraordinary combat power, if the Lord of the Hall makes every effort, he does not have the opportunity to backhand. The dark road, the road condenses. At the moment when Xiao Yang's palm was printed on the heart of the Hall Master, the dark and viscous power of the avenue also quickly covered it. At the same time, all the power of the avenue in the whole space rolled violently at this time, as if they were all alive, twisted, turned into dark branches and vines, and quickly wound around Xiao Yang's body, intended to stop Xiao Yang's action. With the obstruction of the power of the road, Xiao Yang's body was really fast and slow. In the end, he was almost unable to move. The dark mucus wrapped the golden body and covered his face. Finally, Xiao Yang was wrapped into a huge cocoon under the arrogant winding and tearing of the dark road. It was originally printed in the heart of Hall Master Han. The power to explode was also forcibly blocked, and even tore it away for a few inches. This also made Hall Master Han, who was jumping wildly, breathe a long breath and look on his old face. Bin-sized beads of sweat condensed and fell each other, and then swallowed up by the infinite darkness. Xiao Yang, no matter how strong you are, you still can't change the fact that you cultivate accomplishments in the source environment. The gap between levels can't be changed by brute force alone. When the master's face returned to nature, A sarcastic remark came out of his mouth. With the strength of his cultivation, he stopped Xiao Yang in the end. Although his just move did consume a lot of energy in his body, he was quite satisfied with the result. However, the answer to everything is not always as simple as imagined in advance. At the moment when the words were just spit out in the main mouth of the hall, Xiao Yang was wrapped by the dark road in front of him, but there was a sudden action. Hiss, hiss. With a violent hissing sound, wisps of flames suddenly rushed out from the power of the road. At the same time, they were mixed with golden light. What? What? At the moment when the master of the hall exclaimed, the power of the avenue wrapped around Xiao Yang was quickly burned by the fierce flame burning on Xiao Yang. From this point, it is not difficult to see that even the power of the avenue is also inferior in front of the strange fire. Broken heart palm. Then, Xiao Yang's undiminished palm fell heavily on the chest of the hall lord. Pooh! The ferocious destructive force invaded the body of the hall master in an instant. The powerful source gas impacted the viscera of the hall master. The most deadly thing was that there was the most powerful force, which hit his heart hard, making the whole chest seem to be torn back and forth. Ah! The unspeakable pain made the main hall owner's throat roar in pain, and his voice became dumb. In a pair of scarlet eyes, the red light gradually faded down, and an unbelievable look appeared on one face. When his body twitched, mouth after mouth of blood also spewed out from his mouth, the whole person's breath was much weaker in an instant. Bang! Then there was another low muffled sound. All the power contained in the broken heart palm was completely released in the body of the hall master at this moment. Although it tried its best to resist, it was destined to be created by Xiao Yang's broken heart palm. Then, the body of the hall master Hun flew backward uncontrollably, and the black fog shrouded all over his body dissipated as soon as it disappeared. Xiao Yang finally blew his thin body out of the dark field. At the same time, the dark field also dispersed. Xiao Yang, who was pale, gradually hid the flame attached to his body, and his chest fluctuated. The heavy breathing sound indicates the situation at the moment. While the power of heart-breaking palm is powerful, the consumption of source gas is also particularly huge. Taking today's Xiao Yang alone, this blow has consumed most of the source gas in his body, which is not enough to support him to play any other cards. At this moment, Xiao Yang can only hope that this blow will live up to most of his source gas. The sudden changes in the sky also made the strong men who were fighting in the field turn their eyes here, filled with all kinds of eyes, and quickly fell on Xiao Yang and the hall master. At present, the faces of people on both sides changed. As a strong man in Guyuan territory, the hall master of the hall of the hall of the house 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 of. Of course, the lord of the hall was deeply hurt, and Xiao Yang was no better at the moment. His clothes and robes were broken and his hair was scattered. His face was particularly white without a trace of blood color. The whole person's breath was extremely weak. His body standing on the void could not help shaking slightly, as if he might fall from the void at any time. Xiao Yang. Seeing this scene, Leng Bingshuang in the distance was slightly surprised. Jiao couldn't help but want to rush towards Xiao Yang, but she was stopped by Qin Shuo in front of her. A pair of sinister eyes were full of murders, staring at Leng Bingshuang in front of her. Her body moved suddenly, and she rushed towards Leng Bingshuang. At the same time, the voice of dark words also vomited out. Bitch, do you still have time to care about others at this time? You'd better take care of yourself first. Then, in the extremely cold sight of the cold frost, they collided with it again. This time, the collision between the two sides was a little more violent than before. On the other side, Yi Luotian stared at the embarrassed hall master with empty eyes. He couldn't help feeling shocked. At the same time, he was glad that he wasn't the one facing Xiao Yang, otherwise his fate would be more miserable than hall master. Cough, cough. In the void, Xiao Yang and the lord of the hall almost looked up at the same time, and their eyes met together, killing the enemy in their eyes. Sure enough, We underestimated your ability. We haven't seen it for years. You are more powerful than the information we have. Can you even master the terrible thing like EGF fighting skill? I have to say that this is our miscalculation. It's our fault to keep you alive. However, we also said that this time, I will take you back, even if. Yes, pay more. At the end of the sentence, a chilling crazy color appeared on the face of the Hall Master, and then he was promoted. He bit the tip of his tongue fiercely, and a blood arrow was shot immediately. Then, under his control, he suspended in the void in front of him and turned into a blood drop the size of a thumb. After the blood drop shot out, the pale face of the Hall Master became completely white in an instant, and his thin old face seemed to grow old in an instant. The whole person was like a dead wood, which looked particularly seeping, but on the contrary, there was not any gloomy look in his eyes, but a great deal of light, an energetic look. It can be seen that the spitting out of this mass of blood is a great price for the Hall Lord. However, today, in order to catch Xiao Yang, he will not hesitate. Xiao Yang, no matter what happens today, this hall will bring you back. The lips and teeth opened gently, and the hoarse sound of vastness resounded through the heaven and earth. At the same time, the master of the hall pinched and printed rapidly, and the blood droplets suspended in front of him also churned violently. Yin Sho devours spirit. Suddenly, the master of the hall clapped his backhand on the blood condensed into a strange blood rune in front of him. The blood burst into a large blood fog. At the same time, a strong black fog also spread at an extremely amazing speed. The black fog rolled, and a strange cry like a fierce ghost roared constantly. It made people shudder. Before Xiao Yang could make any move, the black fog had spread to a huge area of 100 feet, like a small dark cloud over Shahepu. As for the people in the city below, they all looked at the scene in the sky with curiosity, except a few people were surprised. Most people look like they have nothing to do with themselves. However, I didn't know that when he swept these people, he seemed to see the delicious food in the world, and his eyes couldn't help showing ferocity and greed. These good people, as early as invisible, have become victims of this war, which can be regarded as their own fault. Fearless good people will eventually pay for their lives. Xiao Yang, just now you showed your mind-level fighting skills. You must have run out of source qi in your body. Turning his head, the hall leader stared at Xiao Yang with a grim smile. He clearly knew that without using any external means, their state at this time was half-weight, but he was a strong man in the source environment, but he did not agree with the fact that he was defeated. The madness at the moment was not just for the above task, it is to prove the gap between him and himself to Xiao Yang. In this regard, Xiao Yang was non-committal, but his dark eyes were full of uneasy staring at the strange dark clouds in the sky. From there, he felt an extremely strong bloody breath, which was full of cruel power. Even he would feel a burst of coolness. Jia. Yin Sho devours the spirit, swallows the sky, eats the earth, swallows the earth. At the command of the hall leader, the dark clouds in the sky suddenly sent out a strange cry. Then, in the frightened eyes of the people in the city, huge black fog fell down like meteorites. The target is everyone watching the war in Shahepu. Suddenly, the faces of the people in the city changed dramatically, and the fighting spirit in the body surged rapidly, trying to resist the black fog falling from the sky. Of course, there are also some brave people in the crowd who want to forcibly collide with the black fog with their own strength. However, the result is that the black fog turns into a large viscous liquid and spreads rapidly on those people at the moment of contacting their bodies. The most terrible thing is that while it spreads, among them, there were bursts of frightening teeth rubbing and chewing. At the same time, the strong people wrapped in black fog couldn't help but roar. Those black fog are actually swallowing the body of these strong people, and not only the body, but also the fighting spirit and soul are mercilessly swallowed by these strange black fog. Such means can be called inhuman. In an instant, the Shahepu, which was still calm the moment before, has become a mess. No matter flying to the sky or underground, there will be a terrible roar of pain wherever the black fog can touch. At the same time, all the power swallowed by the black fog will be accepted by the Hall Lord. Who? Feeling the power of rapidly becoming rich in the body, the Hall Master could not help but look up and breathe out. In the void opposite, Xiao Yang looked at the scene in the next square city, and his heart sank suddenly. Then his sight stopped on the Hall Master, held his breath and said in a deep voice, "Your race really doesn't care as much about human life as grass mustard. Jie, you can't say that. There's no free lunch in the world. When they see the play, they have to leave something wrong. If they can use it for me, they can live up to their whole life." As for Xiao Yang's words, Hall Lord whose answer was just a cold sneer, and then he suddenly gave a low drink. The black fog all over the sky fell into the city again like dense raindrops. In the sound of pain, Hall Lord whose breath also rose rapidly. Although it was not better than at the peak, it was also called strong. If the Lord of the Hall at this time shot at Xiao Yang, the latter might not be able to stop even one round. Unfortunately, he didn't. Without prejudice to the changes in the city, Xiao Yang closed his eyes, his breath gradually returned to calm, and the golden light covered on his body surface flickered slightly. In Shahepu, the fierce war between Xiaomen and Qinhuang Migu continues. With the passage of time, the situation of the original stalemate in the field has gradually become clear. The two sides add up to nearly 200 people. Up to now, the originally balanced situation has begun to deflect towards Xiaomen. Even the war between the strong in Huayuanjing over there, the great apes in the sky have also defeated their opponents with thunder. Qin Shuor, who is fighting with Cold Frost, is also surprised to find that in 10 days, the strength of Cold Frost has improved to a higher level. In the war between the two, he is no longer the opponent of Cold Frost with all his strength. Among these people, the most painful thing is Yi Luotian. He has been cultivating poison all his life. Years of cultivation not only makes his skills fully integrated with himself, but also absorbs the refined source qi. Although it is not easy to show it at ordinary times, once he starts, he will definitely make his opponent complain. Today, but he came across a hard stubble. As a puppet, no matter how he collides with poison, even if he wants to corrode with poison, he has no results. The North King will not be afraid of his poison, or even be affected by his poison. No matter how he attacks, it will not help in the end. On the contrary, once the North King's fist touches him, it will definitely hurt his muscles and bones. Although their cultivation is in the source environment, the gap is unbearable. It is precisely because of these, from the beginning of the collision between the two sides, Yi Luotian was in danger of being seriously damaged by the North King at any time, so that by now, dozens of scars, large and small, had appeared on his body, and even a lot of bones were broken. As for Sir and Murong Xian, although they have not defeated their opponents, they can still share the situation. With the great apes in the sky, it is only a matter of time to think that it is necessary to defeat the strong people in the source environment of Qinhuangmi Valley. Of course, in the field at the moment, the most eye-catching is the battle between Xiao Yang and the Lord of the Hall. The painful and miserable cry in the city lasted for nearly a quarter of an hour, and the Hall Master also devoured the fighting energy robbed by him. After swallowing, the black fog became extremely viscous, wrapped with huge energy and returned to the Hall Master. As those thick black fog entered the body of the Hall Master, the body of the Hall Master also creeped strangely. The originally thin body gradually became bloated, first the abdomen, then the chest, limbs, and finally the whole head. While the body of the Hall Master began to expand, the expression on his face was also twisted. It can be clearly seen that the latter should be very painful at this time. In order to get strength and use this extreme means, the dead swallowed by him will eventually become an incentive to kill himself. However, in just a few minutes, the body of Hall Lord who expanded to several times the original, and the whole person became extremely bloated and huge. He was like a monster. His high chest was crawling involuntarily, as if there were another life under it. Hall Lord who couldn't help but make an extremely strange cry in his open mouth, but the power in his body is still rising at a very fast speed. Looking at Xiao Yang at this time, his face is still pale, his eyes are slightly closed, his hands are lost behind him, his black robe is calm, and the golden light on his body surface has long stopped flashing. The whole person is extremely calm, as if everything in front of him has nothing to do with him. His breath converges in his body. If he doesn't watch his nose and breath, I'm afraid he will be mistaken for a dead man. This situation also lasted until the Hall Lord absorbed the black fog. Xiao Yang's closed eyes suddenly opened, and a sharp color appeared on his pale face. At the moment of opening, His dark and plain eyes had fallen on the master of the hall. After sweeping his eyes, he had completely become a monster. Xiao Yan couldn't help but flash a sarcastic color in his eyes. Is it worth it to blindly pursue power, but turn yourself into a strange look that is neither human nor ghost? Jie, Xiao Yang, get ready to die. Noticing Xiao Yang's eyes, the head of the hall laughed again. This time, even his voice became particularly strange, like countless fierce ghosts roaring together, which made people shudder. After the words came out of the main mouth of the hall, his huge body rushed at Xiao Yang violently. His huge body rushed forward recklessly in the void, and his powerful energy condensed in front of him. His whole body rushed forward like a wild bull with crazy hair, but in the blink of an eye, he came close to Xiao Yang. The hall master waved a huge fist several times larger than Xiao Yang's body and smashed Xiao Yang from the front. However, Xiao Yang was indifferent to all the actions of the hall master. He looked at the hall master who was close in front of him with cold eyes. His huge fist quickly enlarged in his dark eyes, and then, bang! The fierce fist finally hit the void in front of Xiao Yang. In this invisible void, it seemed as if there was an invisible wall. It blocked the fist of the Lord of the Hall, which was enough to kill a 9-star strong emperor. What? The appearance of this scene made the pupil in the eyes of the Lord of the Hall suddenly shrink, and he couldn't help shouting. How could his offensive be blocked? Xiao Yang, who has arrived in such a field, can't he have a second hand? Back. At the next moment, a word suddenly popped out of Xiao Yang's mouth with cold eyes. At the same time, an extremely strong and invisible strength rushed out of Xiao Yang's body like a hurricane and roared out like a mountain. Without giving the other party any chance to respond, it bombarded the hall master, and in an instant, he ejected his body. Then, the Lord of the Hall looked up incredulously, but only saw that at this moment, a huge virtual shadow was standing here outside Xiao Yang's body, and the appearance of the virtual shadow was undoubtedly Xiao Yang himself. When the main sight of the hall swept, Xiao Yang slowly raised his palm, and the action of the virtual shadow was synchronized with it. In the surprised eyes of the hall master, Xiao Yang suddenly grasped his palm and heard a sound like a collision of gold and iron. At the place where the palm of the virtual image was tightly held, the originally transparent and invisible body suddenly threw up a layer of golden light, which quickly spread to the whole body like water ripples, and finally turned into a huge golden virtual image. The momentum stands proudly opposite the main hall. And this is the last decision of the 4 saints, the giant elephant decision. When you cast the giant elephant decision, you are bound to learn the first 3 decisions one after another. You should not only complete the cultivation, but also integrate the 3 decisions, and then use the power of the 3 decisions to cast the giant elephant decision. Xiao Yang turned his attention back to himself after the main shock of the hall was retreated. Feeling the burning fierce power in the muscles and bones all over his body, Xiao Yang couldn't help but marvel at the power of the giant elephant decision. Compared with the first 3 decisions of the 4 saints, the power brought by the giant elephant decision to Xiao Yang is stronger, but the degree of power has more than doubled, far from being comparable to any of the 3 images. However, on second thought, I was relieved that the giant elephant decision was originally the product of the integration of the 3 elephant decisions, but how could its power be the same with the integration of all the characteristics and advantages of the 3 elephant decisions? Then, Xiao Yang's sight noticed the huge virtual image that was completely condensed by pure strength in his own body at the moment. I think this virtual image is the essence of the giant image decision. Although the appearance looks slightly illusory, the heavy pressure is unique. Even the Vajra glass body can't compare with it. Although the first 3 decisions can also condense virtual images after cultivation, their respective usages are different, and the effects are naturally different. After the giant elephant decides to integrate the 3 decisions, Xiao Yang can achieve the perfect integration of attack and defense. Even in terms of his own speed, Xiao Yang has a complete grasp and will never be inferior. The advantage of wing elephant determination is that it can improve the speed of practitioners in all aspects in an overall form. In addition, the formation of giant elephant determination in Tianjue Steppe has promoted Xiao Yang's overall strength to a new level in an instant. Now, even if there is no source of qi to protect himself, Xiao Yang's strength cannot be underestimated. The Lord of the Hall is not in a hurry to kill Xiao Yan at the most critical moment. I'm afraid this will become the most regretful mistake in his life. Do you still have the strength to resist? But even so, at the end of the crossbow, see how big waves you can turn. Surprised for a moment, when the Hall Master noticed that Xiao Yan didn't use the source qi, he immediately relaxed a lot. After all, the source qi is the representative of the power between heaven and earth. Brute force alone can't support it for too long, which is not threatening to the Hall Master at this time. Ghost break seal. Then, the Master of the Hall quickly sealed his hands, and the black fog shrouded in his body rolled violently. Soon, in the void in front of him, it condensed into a black fog as big as a football. The most strange thing is that a strange face appeared on the front of the black fog. At the moment, the face is still struggling and wriggling with a wide mouth. His face was full of an extremely painful expression, but then the Hall Master pushed forward, and the strange black fog rushed towards Xiao Yan opposite. Seeing the painful expression of the face on the black fog, Xiao Yan doesn't have to think about it. He also knows that this face must be a strong man in the city who was swallowed up by the Hall Lord. Unexpectedly, the Hall Lord was so vicious that he not only swallowed people alive, but also used the souls that haven't dispersed as fighting skills. I'm afraid such things of anger and resentment in this world, only people like the Ghost Hall can do it. Why don't you even let the dead go? It's really a group of inhuman animals. With an angry scold, Xiao Yan's eyes quickly fell on the oncoming black fog. His eyes were sharp, his right hand spread out, his arm stretched out and lifted forward, then patted it heavily, and opened his mouth again, saying, "As for you, let me help you free." Bang! At the moment when Xiao Yan's words fell, the huge palm of the virtual image also fell suddenly. A slap exploded the black fog to sheng. Together with the power and soul, they burst into nothingness in a moment. The blow of Hall Master was forcibly destroyed by Xiao Yan with the most overbearing attitude. Damn it! Seeing this scene, the scarlet eyes of the Lord of the Hall of Han couldn't help but flash a look of surprise and scold in his mouth. Then his body turned sharply, the soles of his feet stepped heavily on the void, and the invisible void broke in an instant. The body of the Lord of the Hall of Han also turned into a shell in an instant. In a twinkling of an eye, he came to Xiao Yan and threw a fist at Xiao Yan. Bang! However, Xiao Yan once again resisted the attack of the Hall Master. In the unbelievable eyes of the Hall Master, Xiao Yan grabbed him in the palm with a giant elephant. It was useless to let the latter struggle. On the contrary, Xiao Yan grabbed the fist of Hall Master Han and made a hard effort. The wrist of Hall Master Han was suddenly broken by this powerful force. The roar of pain also came from the mouth of Hall Master Han in an instant. Then, Xiao Yan suddenly pulled back again, pulled the body of Hall Master Han in front of him, and lifted his right leg like lightning. With the speed of thunder, he bombarded the chest of the Hall Lord heavily. Bang! With a bang, the chest of the Hall Master was sunken instantly, and his face became red in an instant. A pair of scarlet eyes almost burst into tears. Before he could struggle again, his strong power was to blast the Hall Master out. Who? Xiao Yan couldn't help breathing out a long breath when he blew away the Hall Master. He couldn't help undulating his chest. He looked up and looked at the direction in which the Hall Master was blown out. A fierce killing opportunity appeared in his eyes. Roar! Damn guy! Soon, in the distant sky, there came the angry drinking and swearing of the Hall Master again, and his crazy killing intention. Even if it was far away, it also raised a chill in people's heart. There was a breaking wind in the sky. It was sharp and harsh. Xiao Yan was indifferent to it. When he was absorbed, the body of the Hall Master who had just been blown out rushed over at one time. It was more powerful than just now. People dare not underestimate it. But Rao is so. Xiao Yan still holds his fist without haste and delay. The strong and domineering power filled in his muscles is also mobilized madly at this time. At the same time, the few source qi in his body is also condensed in his right fist. Even if he has not released it, his strong strength still makes the invisible void shake slightly, a circle of shallow ripples. When the Lord of the Hall came to Xiao Yan again, he was like a hungry tiger devouring Xiao Yan. A strong fighting spirit gathered in front of him. The whole person turned into the strongest weapon. In this state, any fighting skills are redundant and the most direct collision can show the results he wants in the fastest way. At the same time, the latter's bent right arm suddenly bounced open like a spring, and the speed of punching was unimaginable. When the powerful fist was about to collide with the Lord of the Hall, Xiao Yan's mouth once again shouted like thunder. 8-level collapse. Bang! The sound of heavy impact sounded in the sky. At the moment when the two collided, a terrible energy wave quickly spread around the two people. Everywhere they passed, the invisible void was broken inch by inch. However, in the blink of an eye, the void hundreds of feet away from the two people turned into a boundless darkness. The fierce fighting spirit launched a violent impact on Xiao Yang's body under the package of black fog. Although most of the forces were resisted by the giant elephant, the rest of it also drove Xiao Yang back. Of course, compared with Xiao Yang, the Hall Master was also under the strong dark impact of level 8 collapse, causing a burst of breath in his body. The state of the whole person has dropped a lot. Together with the residual souls of those people who were suppressed before, they are struggling frantically in their bodies with the help of the impact of the 8-level avalanche. Damn it! Feeling the violence of the remnant souls in the body, the face of the Hall Master changed slightly, scolded secretly in his mouth, and quickly mobilized the fighting spirit in the body, which made it very difficult to suppress it again. Then, Xiao Yang's body rushed forward again, and the strong virtual shadow flashed flexibly with the rotation of Xiao Yang's body. The huge virtual shadow came directly in front of the Hall Master. His right leg was raised high, and with infinite impact, he slashed down from top to bottom. When the Hall Master found it, it was inevitable, so he had to try his best to meet him again. After several fierce collisions, Xiao Yang's every move was extremely cruel and violent. Although there was still a lot of energy left in the Hall Master, under Xiao Yang's indiscriminate bombing, he could only resist it with difficulty until Xiao Yang blew it back again. In the blink of an eye, he came to the head of the Hall Master and stepped down heavily. In a hurry, the Lord of the Hall only had time to raise his arms and cross to resist, so Xiao Yang stepped heavily on his strong arm. Bang! However, at the moment when the two collided, the face of Hall Lord who suddenly changed, and his powerful strength poured out like a dragon at sea. Even he could not resist that powerful force. Therefore, at the moment of Xiao Yang's collision, Hall Lord whose body was blown out without resistance, even the two arms used to resist Xiao Yang's attack were blown off their bones. The fighting spirit originally condensed on the body surface was completely disintegrated under Xiao Yang's attack. In the face of Xiao Yang at this time, the Hall Master has no ability to compete with him. Xiao Yang, the leader of the Hall of Shu in the peak period, can even compete with him. At this moment, after swallowing the strong in the city, the cultivation of the former is at most just the later stage of the source territory. If that's the case, Xiao Yang has full confidence and can suppress it with the powerful determination of the giant elephant. With a blow, Xiao Yang flew to the Hall Master, without any hesitation, and his body was not stable. Then he flashed again. In the blink of an eye, he had appeared directly under the Hall Master, whose body was rapidly declining. His body was twisted, and his strength was concentrated on his right leg. At the moment of bending, he burst out again like lightning, and heavily stepped on the back of the Hall Master. Pooh! The body of the Hall Lord Hun arched up in a moment, his mouth was wide open, blood gushed, and even a blood column broke out in front of his chest, followed by countless residual souls, which rushed out like ants out of their nest and turned into crazy resentments, flying around the Hall Lord Hun's body and yelling at him, as if to express their hatred for him. Many even rushed up to the body of the Lord of the Hall, tore the flesh and blood off his body with his mouth, and devoured it. Mercilessly. Ah! After a while, the sad cry sounded again in the sky, but this time, the object was suddenly reversed. The Hall Master who had caused all this previously became the object of this time. Looking at the scene in front of him, Xiao Yang's face couldn't help feeling pity. Although these grievances were not necessarily good people before they died, they really shouldn't be involved in the war, let alone become victims of the war. Unfortunately, because of the appearance of Hall Master, these people have become what they are now. However, from the present point of view, the Hall Master at this time also reluctantly paid the due price for the evil consequences he planted. Raw. You damn things dare to bite back at this hall and die for me. The panting hall master immediately focused on the resentful spirits who were constantly biting his body around him. After noticing that Xiao Yang didn't do it again, he turned his face angrily, turned his hands into claws, and mercilessly flashed over the heads of the resentful spirits, but in a moment, he killed them all into nothingness. After the Hall Lord who forcibly killed the last complaining spirit, his original huge body became thin and bent again, lost the supplement of those complaining spirits to his own energy, and the breath of Hall Lord who became weak again. However, it was obviously impossible to show the yin evil spirit to devour the spirit as before. He really didn't have so much blood essence to use, not to mention, with the only power left in his body, it was not enough for him to exert it again. Cough, cough. The master of the hall coughed and vomited, and the whole person's state also fell sharply. Even the body standing in the void at the moment was particularly reluctant, but even so, there was a color of struggle in his eyes. He never thought that the cultivation of returning to the source would be defeated by Xiao Yang, and even so miserably. After Xiao Yang completely broke out his real strength, he already understood that Xiao Yang was not what he could deal with at all. His plan this time was obviously completely defeated. If he wanted to catch Xiao Yang, he had to send stronger people in the temple. Even the strong above the source can have the opportunity. We must take the news back. A thought flashed in the heart of the hall master, and then his bitter eyes fell on Xiao Yang and insisted. I admit that I underestimated you. This temple has written down what happened today and will ask you to return it all in the future. After that, the lord of the hall fought for the last bit of strength in his body and sealed again. Hihi, do you think you can go today? Hearing the speech, Xiao Yang smiled coldly, stared at the hall master coldly and sneered. I know that your soul power is very strong, but with the secret of my ghost hall, even if your soul power is strong, you can't leave this hall as long as you haven't exceeded the 7th level. After that, the body shape of the hall master suddenly burst into a strange black fog and spread rapidly. Do you really think you can run? Seeing this, Xiao Yang shook his head with a sneer, and his hands quickly printed. At the same time, the strange fire that had converged into the body also rushed out of the body again, and surrounded the black fog in the sky at a very fast speed. The ferocious strange fire quickly retracted. Soon, with a sad howl, the figure of the hall master appeared again. But this time, he had been controlled by Xiao Yang's strange fire. This